Hello and welcome to Christ Church United Reformed Church in Chelmsford. We're recording this video for Heritage Open Days 2025 with the theme of architecture, and I want to tell you a little about this fabulous church. My name's Jane Humphries. I'm an elder at the church, I've been a treasurer at the church, and I've been worshipping a part of this church family since 1962. But this building wasn't here in 1962. We go back a long way in Chelmsford with Reformed, non-conformist worship. So if you go all the way back to 1672, there was a new congregation in Baddow Road in Chelmsford, and it was the only one that wasn't a church like the Anglican church that we know today as the cathedral. So there were just the cathedral and Baddow Road Independent Church. Welcome inside. We've come through the front doors and the vestibule into the main sanctuary where we worship. But just before I talk a bit more, why was I standing next to a bee outside? Well, that's part of Buzz in the City for 2025, a great fundraiser for Farley Hospice. The bee won't be here now when you come to see Christ Church, but Farley Hospice's work keeps going on. Please be generous and support them. But back to Christ Church. Baddow Road congregation grew. It split. They formed a second church in London Road. They came back together again and they split again. And you found in the Victorian era that there were two amazing churches. There was a building down London Road, opposite where Marks and Spencer's is now, next to the bridge, designed by James Fenton, who designed so much of New London Road. And that was the church we knew as London Road Congregational Church. And then there was another building in Baddow Road, roughly where the Odeon roundabout is now. And that was Baddow Road Congregational Church. And the two congregations were vibrant, but they always were recognizing they could be one. And in the 1960s, there was a lot of change in Chelmsford. The London Road Church was thinking that the building was a bit difficult to maintain, a little bit of damp coming in from the river next door. So they were looking at selling the separate Sunday school building they had in a place called Friars Place. That's in the middle of Parkway. So they were thinking about selling Friars Place, using the money to get a new church. But they had a conversation with Baddow Road. And Baddow Road found that they were going to be plonk in the middle of where Chelmsford wanted to build Parkway. So the two congregations, the two church families, came back together to build one church, Christ Church Congregational Church. And that family, the union of the two congregations, happened on the 3rd of May 1970. And that's what we regard as our birthday. But where are you going to find the site to build a church for a congregation of well over 500 people? That's some sort of site. Fortunately for the church, halfway up New London Road was a derelict site. It had been a beautiful place. It had been Brierley Place, one of the lovely houses in New London Road, and the home of Alderman Thompson and his family. And Alderman Thompson was one of our great Chelmsford mayors, mayor 7 times. He was also editor of Essex Chronicle. And on this day in October 1940, he was at home with his wife, one of his sons and his wife and their 2 children. The maid was around, but there was an air raid warning and they were down in the basement for shelter. Unfortunately for them, the bomber missed the target, which was probably Crompton's or the railway line, something like that, and the bomb came down straight through their house and detonated, and they were all killed in the basement. Very sad. I talked to one person in Chelmsford not long ago who said he can remember walking down New London Road the next day and seeing trousers, dresses, clothes hanging off the trees from the Thompson family. It's quite a vision. The Thompsons left their property to the British Legion, and the British Legion kept the site largely untouched. And that meant that in 1966, when we were looking for a site to buy, we could buy the majority of the site from the British Legion. The British Legion Hall is next door on the site of Brierley House itself. So many people do know something about the bombing and think of this as a bomb site, but that's not really the reason why this is such a deep site that falls away from New London Road and makes it a very difficult site to build a building on. This was also the clay pit for the 1840s building developments. So many of the houses up down New London Road are built with bricks that were made from the clays from this big clay pit. So a good site, but a challenging one. And a challenging one when you're looking to find an architect who can create a new church building that fits the late 20th century on a very complex site. And John Finch took this on. And John Finch Associates are still an architect's practice in Chelmsford. So clearly this, which must have been one of his early projects, was good for him and very good for us. The builders were Frederick J. French, a long-term Chelmsford building company, and sadly they went out of business in 2011. But how do you design a modern church building? It's an octagon. It's an octagon on a double height level with a gallery at the back, a lantern lighting up above, central lighting coming through in the wood ceiling. But most of this building is made of concrete, not rack concrete. We're sure of that. It's good. And it has a wonderful open feeling for a gathering of people. Look around you. Look what you can see. There's a false wall behind me with a cross cut into it over the pulpit, and that window just poking out behind. And you can sit out here, whether you've come here to worship, or you've come here for a concert, or you've come here for a talk, or you come here for somebody's wedding or funeral, and you can look out, see the sky, see that great tree change through the seasons. You can see the organ. This is mainly created from the old London Road organ, but there's some bits of Baddow Road in it. It's a joy as an organ, and certainly the local organists will rate this as possibly the best one in Essex. There may be arguments about that, but it is a wonderful instrument that we still will use in worship when it's appropriate, but come along if you get the chance to hear it play. So in contrast with that wonderful sanctuary, which now seats over 400, up to 400 people. I'd like to say over 400, but for fire regulations reasons, we're restricted to 400 in the sanctuary these days. We've walked out of one door and round a little corridor to the chapel. And this chapel is dedicated for the British Legion, the people from whom we actually bought the site. So we have their banners, and we have their Bible, and this is a chapel for the British Legion, and there's a plaque on the wall that commemorates that. I have to say, the chapel's a little bit smaller than it was when the building opened in 1971, because in 2004 we received a legacy which allowed us to put in a lift between this level and the level below. And the only way we could do that was take a little slither off the chapel down that side. But I don't think it makes a big difference to the feel of the chapel. Now there's one real glory in this chapel, the thing I love, and that's what it's what I call the Jesus window. I actually don't know what the designer called it originally. And it's a great sadness that we have no records that tell us who designed this window for us. It's been here since the building was opened in 1971. And it's 100 pieces of clear glass put onto a backing of glass to create Jesus with his open arms, like that, and as a welcome. Poor old Jesus, I have to say, bits kept dropping off him from the very early days. You'd come in here on a Sunday morning to put your robe on for the chapel, in the chapel for the choir, and you say, oh no, another bit, Jesus gone. And we had one of our members who was very good at saying, leave that to me, I'll stick it back. But I think it got stuck back with araldite or something else, and they yellowed. It looked horrible. And by 2020, there were a lot of pieces of Jesus down at the bottom, and the ones that were left were looking pretty unappealing. So, as our 50th anniversary Jubilee project, we looked around for a company who could restore Jesus to glory. Took a while. It's not something that there are many companies willing to consider, but a company called Aura Visions said, we can do this, and they did a magnificent job. And now Jesus is back as he should be. And one of the delights is, if you walk through the car park of Christ Church at night and look up, and if there's a light on here in the chapel, it'll just illuminate Jesus looking down and looking out over everybody who walks by. So if you're going through our car park, look up and see if you can see Jesus there watching out. I think it's a wonderful bit of the design of this property. Of course, a church is about a lot more than just worship, even though that's really important. So we've come downstairs, and there's a whole new level here. I'm talking to you in our main church hall, which has been beautifully designed with a stage for performance and projection lights up. It's lovely lighting down the side, out through the clear windows to our neighbours who are Burkitts, the solicitors at the moment. There's a kitchen behind, and we can seat 180 people in here. We're not going to do that this afternoon. It's set up with tables for the U3A. Chelmsford U3A use this building a lot, but so do a lot of other regular hirers. We are so glad to welcome people like Parkinson's, Alcoholics Anonymous, Junior Chess Club. And with all these facilities that encourage performance, singing, dance, acting, we also attract organisations that encourage young people to do this, like the Musical Theatre Company, and perform and make believe. So this building is alive with people throughout the week. It's not just an organisation for Sunday, and never was. I've said before, this is a site that's complicated and a church on many levels. We are at the lower level, and yet you can see in front of me we've got more steps. It's one of the difficulties of this place that you come in at the lower level and there's a lovely hall and a kitchen attached to it, but to get to the other meeting rooms or at the other far end, you have to come up steps, and that means we've had to install wheelchair platforms to go up and down. You would never build a building quite like this today, but it's testimony to the best that they could do in the 1960s and how we have tried in the 2000s to adapt. We're continually trying to improve the accessibility of this building so that everybody feels welcome here. One of the differences that happened was the architect expected people to come down from upstairs either through some internal stairs like that, or go down the slope outside and come in to a wonderful lower level entrance. We don't use that at all now. It is a fire exit, you can still go out of it, and it shows how a building always changes through its life. The people use it and change it, and we have to look and see how our activities in a building are not always constrained by the building. We look to be innovative and change. They say, you know, you design a building for what you want, and then that building can design you. We want to resist that and keep reflecting how you can change and modify what you do, and welcome all the various groups that meet here. So the very first bit of Christ Church United Reformed Church that was built was actually the youth hall. That was finished first, and on the 31st of December 1970 we came and worshipped here on New Year's Eve to celebrate the creativity and the creation of the new church. We were having morning services at the grammar school, Kegs, great to go there, but once this place existed we held our evening services here, and the youth club carried on after worship having a whale of a time, and it's still used for youth activities. This is home to our scouts. We had a fantastic holiday club here this year, and so it is still very much used for youth activities. The second hall is the Farthing Hall, and this was built later. This didn't come till 1985, when a group of people wanted to be able to provide a training workshop for people who needed to learn new skills. And with the help of the Walter Farthing Trust, this building was erected and for many years provided help, first of all with crafts like carpentry, but then IT skills. And that went on till 2007, when the building was handed back to the church to look after. We wondered what to do with it, and there was a period from 2011 to 2021 when it was hired out to the health service as a phlebotomy clinic. And I know many people in Chelmsford who regret the fact that there's no longer an easy place to come and have blood taken, where you can pop in, get a welcome and go away again quite quickly. So it's still a useful hall for us, and it completes the set of all the different activities that go on this site. I know that there are hundreds, possibly more than hundreds, of people who just walk through these grounds each week. It's a good cut through from New London Road to get out towards Central Park. Dog walkers come this way, commuters come this way, and people walk through. Whether they realise they're walking through Christ Church, United Reformed Church, I don't know. I just hope that they will be able to sometimes look up, see that Jesus window that I was talking about, and admire how this building was created to sit in a former clay pit that also has bomb site attached to it. So thank you for visiting Christ Church United Reformed Church. You are always welcome.